How and what is Google tracking about you? Cybersecurity for the People, Consumer Privacy Edition. Google Geofencing. When a crime is committed, Google knows the vicinity, closeness, and distance of all the phones logged into that area. Law enforcement agencies just can request a warrant for all the phones in the area. Google searches. Google keeps track of all your searches. Once again, law enforcement can request a warrant for all the searches and their unique keywords. A California man was falsely arrested because of Google geofencing.
Law enforcement agencies are now using Google to track down suspects. The tech giant uses a database called Sensor Vault. Though you may be more familiar with the term, it's called location services.
For police, the function acts like a dragnet, locating every device near a crime scene. And according to a New York Times article, requests by investigators to use Sensor Vault database have risen sharply in the last 6 months. So Jennifer Valentino DeVries joins us now. She's the author of that New York Times report. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.
I just learned about this. We were just talking. If you are fans of the podcast To Live and Die in LA, the last episode, they talk about this, how Google is keeping track of everything, not just things that you Google, but a whole lot of other information about you.
Like it's practically a one-stop shop. And Google keeps a lot of information on your emails, if you use Gmail, your search history, which is incredibly valuable. And other things about you if you use Google services, especially if you have an Android phone. They track location a lot of times. And this can really be valuable to police.
And this is more accurate than the pings. We always hear about the cell phone pings pinging off cell towers. But in terms of the location, this is more accurate.
Right. And from a law enforcement perspective, I think this is really exciting for them because cell phone towers, it's just the phones that are connected to that tower. And it has, you think about it, a pretty wide range, right? But Google is using GPS. They're even using the Wi-Fi that are around your phone, just in the immediate vicinity, and it can be a lot more precise.
So it's important for law enforcement agencies to use this service because it does help them catch criminals. But could innocent folks be entrapped as well?
Yes, and actually that's one of the things we found in reporting out this story there was a man who was arrested based on this data and kept in jail for nearly a week. And then he was released and another person was arrested. And the details are unclear, but it seems as though the first man may have logged into somebody else's phone to check his account or may have left his phone somewhere. And so it looked as though he was at a murder scene. But police have now released him and arrested somebody else.
Do we know how long Google keeps this information? Do they know what my, 15-year-old self or whatever had been Googling?
So it depends on the service. So this information that's in this Sensor Vault database is kept if you have a certain service called Location History on that allows you to get recommendations based on where you've been. So like if you go to ski resorts a lot, you might see ads for skis and things like that. And that is kept if you have opted into it until you delete it. So you can actually go in and kind of look at your Google account and delete some of this information. You can delete the search history that's associated with your account. But in a lot of cases, otherwise Google will just keep it indefinitely.
Is Google the only company that uses this type of service?
They're the only company that has a database of locations that is this extensive. So Apple, if they collected location data this way, there's so many iPhones, they could have something similar, but they say that they don't do that. It's not accessible in the same way that this Google information is, because they have a slightly different business model. They're not going for ads, they're trying to sell you phones.
So this is an option that we would have opted into without even really thinking about it, right?
Right. It's the sort of thing that you would get prompted to do to get, traffic alerts or geotagging on your pictures and things like that. So I think a lot of people opt into it. It is opt-in, but they might not realize it. So it can be worthwhile to check your settings if you're worried about this.
I'm afraid to see what Google knows about me.
Is it required by law? Is Google required by law to provide this information to law enforcement?
Yeah, I mean, law enforcement are getting a warrant here. I think the question is really whether those warrants are always valid, because they can be for a pretty big, expansive space. and, you know, making sure that it's not ensnaring innocent people who just happen to have logged into a different phone or something.
Fascinating and scary.
Very
Our information
fascinating.
is out there. Jennifer Valentino DeFries, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Great story, by the way.
An Avondale man sat in jail for 6 days accused of a murder that he did not commit. He says that this incident ruined his life, and he says it was all because of misleading location data that tied him to the scene of the crime. Our Max Gordon is joining us live now. And Max, how did all of this happen?
Well, George Molina says his Gmail account was logged into multiple devices that weren't his. And while he was hanging out with friends one night 2 miles away, one of those devices was at the scene of a crime.
I really felt my world was crashing down.
George Molina recalls the day he was arrested at work and hauled off to 4th Avenue Jail.
They thought they had their guy.
Avondale PD arrested Molina in connection with a murder that happened in March of 2018, saying his white Honda matched the suspect's vehicle, and location data showed a device logged into Molina's Google account was at the scene as well.
They kept saying, you know, we know you were there. You need to take responsibility. You need to own up to what you did.
But there were problems with the evidence. Molina says his mom's ex-boyfriend, Marcos Gaeta, would routinely take his Honda.
And he would take my car without my permission.
Plus, Molina was logged into his Google account on multiple devices in multiple locations. And one of those devices belonged to his mom's ex, Gaeta.
I did go onto his phone to sign into my Google account and look at my emails because I was looking for a job at the time. So it all came back to me that, yeah, my account was signed into his phone.
Still, Molina spent 6 days at 4th Avenue Jail.
And that experience was terrifying.
And eventually, his mother's ex-boyfriend, Gaeta, was found to be the main suspect in the murder.
I want this to create change. I want change in this system.
Molina now hopes departments like Avondale will be more careful when making arrests based on location data, and he wants an apology from the people who arrested an innocent man.
I haven't had nothing. I haven't heard anything from them. Nothing. Like they tried to ruin my life.
Molina is also looking for a settlement from the department. He says finding a job has been difficult after being accused of a crime he didn't commit. His lawyers filed a notice of claim for $1.5 million. Live in the newsroom, Max Gordon, Arizona's Family.
So be very careful when you share your phone with other people. Make sure if you log into Google, you log out and you flush all your information out their phone. Cybersecurity for the people, privacy, please subscribe. Thank you very much.